just helping with client just now, and how, dealing with the boss, right? Knowing that it's time or will be time soon enough to leave the position, yet also having empathy and compassion for the boss, knowing that the boss may be in a challenging position, but also recognizing that the dynamics are no longer working for this individual, and it's time soon enough, when the time is right, to depart, to disconnect. But yet, being a sensitive person, right, an emotionally sensitive person, and certainly a lot of people are certainly emotionally sensitive, and feeling into the boss's emotions, and the codependency, right? Whether it's people pleasing, or just that process of not wanting to break free from what is thought of or believed as safety or just compliance, can be very challenging, right? Feeling the emotions of others, right? Whatever dynamic in this case is employee with boss, and you realize this work is no longer, is helping, is aligned, is no longer gonna support in a greater sense of fulfillment, joy, right? It's taking up space for the creation of what is really able and capable and wanted and desired. But, not wanting to, right, hurt the others, because there is deep care, but also realizing, and with continual efforts to try to change the dynamics without a lot of much positive or progressive movements. So now it is time, but to be willing to recognize that emotional piece, right? The attachment to not wanting to create negative emotions in others. So therefore we stay in relationships, right? In situations, in works that are no longer helpful. So what is to do? Well, it's to first be willing to respond to one's negative emotions. When we become less afraid of the negative emotions that come up within us, say frustration, for example. A lot of people in the world work with this energy, frustration. But many just numb it, distract it, right? There's so many agents that distract, numb, repress, suppress frustration. And then the mind judges there is no other possibility. This is the only way. I have no other choice. And then just it sticks. So the point then for it's to be willing to honor oneself, to take care of one's own frustration, right? When you're not afraid of your own negative emotions over time and learn to remedy, right? Say frustration. When you're feeling frustrated, be willing to see it as a guide, as an invitation to check, how did I get here? Where down the road or earlier on that I wasn't honoring myself. I wasn't really honoring what I wanted to do. I wasn't really making the choices that deep down in my heart, in my soul, in my gut, right, I really wanted for myself. And then I'm here now and I feel stuck, right? Disconnecting with thoughts and the mind. The mind is designed, well, not designed, but just our environment conditions the mind to keep us in what it perceives as safety. But often that just creates frustration, right? I mean, take a look around us and how many people are doing things that they don't really want to do because they don't feel they have any other choice, or because the school systems or whatever dynamics or family culture they come through that has conditioned that belief in them, right? So disconnecting from the mind, honoring when frustration or a negative emotion or like say anger or bitterness comes up, right? Then seeing it as a guide or a teacher and being willing to explore, right? How did I get here? What choices did I make to end up in this situation? So therefore, moving forward, It may just be the next moment, the next day, later on that day, right? The next big decision. Be willing then to make the decision that comes from you, right? And so you can learn to remedy your own frustrations, right? So therefore, over time, not being afraid of, say, frustration or bitterness or anger, but to be willing to learn about yourself on how that's coming up and why, so you can take different actions moving forward to experiment. And then through that, not being afraid of the emotions that comes up within ourselves, therefore we can hold greater space for experiencing the emotions in others. Not being afraid when frustration comes up, when we quit a shitty job, right? Not being afraid of the manager, the boss, whatnot, getting frustrated and using whatever this person may use. Some may use tactics that will create guilt or shame, right? Or whatever it may be, right? Once again, these are all the mind, the fear structures in everyone's minds, and it's hard to imagine a single person that doesn't have some form of fear, guilt, shame structure being operated from. So it's understanding that, right? Having over time, having compassion, understanding that all of us are working through it, but also being willing to realize, right? Say you tell your parents that you're not going to walk your own way, going to choose your own choices, going to date or marry the person that you, etc. you want to, right? You leave a shitty job and you tell the manager, okay, give the 2 weeks notice. And then the tactics that may come up, the guilting, the shaming, the pressure, the resistance in varying forms, right? Therefore, we can handle that. Over time, as we are able to handle that within ourselves that come up, right? And therefore, just hold space, hold steady, right? To allow the emotions to pass. For emotion is simply energy in motion, right? But to consider what energies are present. Why was that there? Why is the boss or the parent or the authority figure, what have you, why are they using those tactics? Why do they respond that way, right? It's likely they have unresolved, trauma within themselves, right? And they feel there is no other way. They feel that's the only way they may need. Just like parents, love their children and they try their best, but they're going about it the same way that their parents controlled them, parented them, right? So therefore, having that understanding, right? Once again, having our own inner understanding and then working with ourselves to move through so we can make more loving, more aligned, more conscious choices. And then we can therefore take those actions more and more on the outer layers, in the external and into our lives. And then when those decisions impact others who are holding on to codependency, right? Or expecting you to keep people pleasing because it's maybe learned that that's right, that that with some pressure, with some guilting, that you'll just cave in. Therefore, you can hold that steadiness, that groundedness, right? That solidity, that clarity, that awareness that this is emotions, that these are all things that come up, these tactics that come at me, and I can allow them to pass through me because I've learned to allow my own tactics to to control myself in certain patterns. Over time, I've learned to let those go. So now I can handle this, and being willing to quit this job that's no longer working for me, or leave this relationship, or tell my parents, or express to my parents, or be with my parents in a way that I'm not subservient to, right? The previous structures of codependency, right? And realizing, just letting the energy pass, emotion, energy in motion, right? So allowing that. And everything in life that we do that helps move energy will also help support our capacity to do so, right? Better sleep, the basics, the foundations, better sleep, movement, nutrition. Do you have intimacy, as in understanding with friends and loved ones and people in your life that you can really feel safe with, right? So one step at a time, take care of yourself, and then one step at a time, make the choices